All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Polk County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday. Oh my gosh, I can hear my voice. Tuesday, November 5th, voting day. Happy voting day. All commissioners are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I make a fuss about that noise I can hear now. Speakers, microphones connected. I've not heard that before. And now I'm really intimidated by the Pledge of Allegiance because I think everybody can hear me when I make a mistake. Always in a panic about the Pledge of Allegiance, like don't mess up. Don't be scared. All right, first item up is for comments for items that are not on the agenda. As you know, limited to 3 minutes. Please come forward.
Robert Greenway, 2223 Southeast Academy Street, Dallas. In the last meeting, I want to take a strong exception to Mr. Polk, who accused me of what information I gave him as opinion. It was fact, it's proven, and I don't appreciate it. So if you're gonna, don't shake your head.
Sorry.
If you're gonna, not, you don't.
I'm entitled to make my statement of.
You know, it was an opinion, and did you check it?
Nope.
Okay, then you don't know if it's opinion. That's your opinion. Conjecture, okay? Here's 2 words for you guys for the day, okay? I'm tired of putting up with, I've been dealing with certain things for a long time, and I just keep getting the runaround, you know? We don't have we have a legal system, but we don't have a just system because everybody covers for everybody else when it comes to matters of city, county, state agencies and stuff like that. And I found that out hundreds of times over the past 8 months since I've moved here to Dallas. Okay, for you guys, ignorance or ignorant, lacking knowledge or understanding about certain things. That fits you guys to a T because you won't admit anything, you won't check into it. You keep giving excuses. Fool or fools, person who act unwisely, person who is duped. A fool, a stupid person who lacks judgment or common sense. Weak-minded or idiotic person. I found that to be true in a lot of cases. You know, if I'm wrong, I've always told people I will accept, okay? I've said things and I've been called out on it and I accept them, okay? So if anything I've said here is wrong, say something, okay? What I've given you about this, about your so-called DA, you know, if you can't have reign over them and let them run wild and don't ask questions, then how do you know things are done right? You know, I've gone to them specifically, oh, I don't have to tell you that, but then they use it against me. So either put up or shut up, and I'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you. Other comments?
Andy Strauss, 611 Southeast Road, Woodland, Dallas. Mr. Gordon, I wanted to follow up a couple of comments that you were made last week that you said there were a lot of reasons why you're endorsing Mark Garten for sheriff. The examples you gave was as mayor of Falls City, who's the first public official to reach out to you and establish a relationship. He brought tremendous value to the city, which essentially operating without any law enforcement, and you guys worked to bridge partnerships, and he brought value to the community. Every time you approached him with an idea to bring value to the citizens, he's been responsive. You think he's a very responsive sheriff. Mr. Gordon, you stated 3 times that Mark Garten was a man who valued community and citizens he served. You also stated that he's very responsive. Can you tell me your definition of value?
No.
You can't?
I'm not gonna subject myself to an interrogation by you.
it's just a
I support him in the election.
Can you tell me a definition of what responsive is?
No.
No?
I'm not interested in the conversation.
Okay. You said you're sorry that the case involving our family did not go the way I wanted it to, but that you don't have any oversight over that, nor do you have an educated opinion on that. But I think you do. In a public interview you did in April of 2022, and when discussing concerns about law enforcement, you said you have a bird's eye view into their work. You said you see a spreadsheet of all their interactions with the public every day. You said that essentially I'm talking.
I see incident reports.
No,
I don't have detailed views. I don't have detailed access to investigations. I do not.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll finish.
I know what you're trying to link here, but it's just.
You do?
Accurate.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, great. I'm going to just repeat that. You said you have a bird's eye view into their work. You see a spreadsheet. The board, you guys see a spreadsheet every day?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
if we want to, we have access.
Okay.
The
You said
report file.
essentially Board of Commissioners are the CEO of the county, and it's your job to keep an eye on personnel recruitment and retention and making sure things are running well at the organizational level. So when you stated that you've made it clear to me that you all don't involve yourselves with investigations or cases, how can that be when you yourself just said you had a bird's eye view and a spreadsheet of all interactions with the public? Does that mean you just sit back and support your colleague, the sheriff, and ignore and dismiss your constituent that has repeatedly told you and given you examples of the lack of integrity and professionalism within the sheriff's office? Do you have some good old boy handshake with the sheriff to just ignore your constituents and blow off concerning morale issues within the sheriff's office that have negative impact on your community? In the interview, you stated that you think that consistent dialogue between community members and law enforcement is key to improve services. I'll come back tomorrow and finish the paragraph. If you want to read the rest of it, I do have a copy of it there for you. And the interview was April 2022 with the Democratic Party, if you want to review what you said, so we can.
Anyone else for comments? Okay, hearing none. Moving on. Approval of the agenda.
Also move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Approval of minutes of October 29th.
I'll move approval.
I'll second that.
And it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Appeal for planning file, additional use 24-14. Good morning, team.
Morning.
Good morning. All right, I am Hannah Brickner, Associate Planner for the Polk County Community Development Department. The Community Development Department received land use application CU 2414, which is an application for a commercial power generating facility that would convert dairy waste to renewable natural gas within the exclusive farm use zoning district. On October 18th, 2024, the planning director approved this application along with 28 conditions of approval and sent notice of the decision to surrounding area property owners and other interested parties. A timely appeal was subsequently submitted, which identified several concerns regarding potential impacts on surrounding farm and forest operations, odor, traffic, noise, air emissions, and leaks and spills. Polk County Zoning Ordinance Section 111-280 requires the Board of Commissioners to determine the hearing body. The board can direct staff to schedule a public hearing before the Polk County Hearings Officer or schedule the hearing before the Board of Commissioners. Due to the technical nature of this application and appeal, staff recommends the board set the public hearing before the Polk County Hearings Officer.
Okay, thank you. Questions? This is your shot to make a motion.
I'll move to direct staff to schedule a public hearing before the Polk County Hearings Officer pursuant to PCZO 111.280 and provide notice.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Pass unanimously. Thank you, team.
You.
All right, next up is community strategy session. Tim Sinatra and Sean Irvine are here to talk to us. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning. Thank you for having us. Yeah,
Menu.
appreciate the opportunity to be here, give you an update on some planning work that we're doing in the sort of Independence Monmouth area. Sean Irvine, Economic Development Director, City of Independence. I think as you all are aware, our city pool died a couple of years ago. That was a big concern for our community. It was a great recreational resource. And so we undertook some community work to really kind of figure out what we might be able to do with that property. If there's an opportunity to recreate some type of recreational facility, do something else there that can further serve the community. We did a lot of, a good bit of community engagement through surveys and workshops. A lot of interest around different recreational activities. We engaged with some local recreational partners as well to see what their interest was, because of course the city is not really in a position to be able to do very much by ourselves. And through those conversations, we kind of recognized that where the pool is located, next to the former Henry Hill Elementary School, there's a number of interesting resources there between the school district, Migrant Head Start, Oregon Childhood Development Coalition. The Y already had a presence there. And we saw that pool property as an interesting potential asset to be able to use to catalyze something greater. But what we also recognized was this was something that we needed to kind of take a step back on and do a more thorough engagement process with kind of all of our potential community partners to really be able to identify, what are the assets we currently have? What are the gaps that we have within our community, both in terms of recreation and sort of just the broader kind of personal and public health needs, and then see if we can develop a group of partners who might be interested in actually working to create something. I think it was important that we wanted to undertake this without a specific end in mind. It was really about, let's pull a bunch of partners together, as many as we can, see who's doing what, see where the gaps are, see who's interested in expanding or otherwise doing something more, and then, coalesce into some type of a strategy to make something happen. We were fortunate to get a grant from the Ford Family Foundation to hire a consultant to help us put together and facilitate this process. And that process just wrapped up last week, I think it was. And I think I want Tim to be able to talk a little bit about the process and what some of those outcomes were.
Great. Thank you very much. Tim Sinatra, CEO, YMCA of Marion Polk Counties. Appreciate the time for having us here. In fact, this is just hot off the press, and I'm just probably going to use 2 or 3 of the slides, if we don't mind advancing. Oh, is it up here? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I wasn't paying attention. First of all, let's see. Here we go. So there was a 3 strategy session process, and very impressive in Polk County to be able to have over 50 partners participate through these sessions. And that's something to be said about Polk County, about everyone coming together, kind of looking at what the greater needs are, and really giving their input and looking at a strength-based approach to moving forward collectively. I was highly impressed. I helped facilitate some of the sessions and was impressed by just the unity Polk County has in working together across all the sectors. So very impressed. This was the process we went through to get to what I'm going to share with you today. This is that's something to be proud of in Polk County. Not many communities could say they had strategy sessions where that many partners, cities, all different parts of Polk County coming together and being a part of the results, and really looking, how do we step into the future with what are the greatest needs and opportunities. And so very excited about being a part of that. All of the partners were excited to be involved. In doing this, the main goal was to really asking ourselves, how do we improve community health, wellness, education, and recreation opportunities for the region? That was the goal of the project, really to improve the overall quality of life, to add to all of the great things that are currently being done in the community and in the county, and see how we can come up with some key areas that need to be focused on. 4 areas came up in that. One was expanding asset building. So in the pyramid, this is what I call the social impact pyramid. In every community, you have opportunities for asset building, prevention, and high-level intervention. And what we did here was we asked all the partners is, where do you think most of the resources and services are being focused on across the pyramid? And if you can look at the sticky notes, you can see that there's really excellent opportunities and services in the intervention, which, as you know, is the most traumatic and high cost type area. You have sometimes people using the emergency room as a primary care, things like that. You've got high level prevention. So there's a lot of great things going. The family, Brent's here, the Family Community Outreach Center, doing amazing work. I got to tour that personally. Very impressive. In fact, Salem's following the facet of that to create something similar. And then where we saw the gap was asset building. We were struggling with trying to see exactly what are the resources there when you're thinking about the whole age continuum, not just youth or a certain population. And that's where kind of one of the gaps in expanding asset building. The second one was increased program opportunities and access for indoor, outdoor flexible space to increase the diversity of programs across the age continuum. What we found was that many community members have multiple needs and interests. And the only way you can really meet that is through a collaborative approach to bring a broad range of services within easy reach. So really thinking about access and diversity of opportunities. And then addressing the priority gaps where seniors, teenagers, where populations, people with disabilities, respite care for childcare was important, and bridging cultural gaps and intergenerational and multicultural activities came up as social priorities. And then finally, the fourth key area of focus was strengthening communication and collaboration, community engagement, communication amongst the partners, really looking at accessibility, equity, and inclusion, and then looking at really teaming up to make sure we can get the information out of the resources in the community through co-marketing and supporting each other's organization. The vision statement that came up from all of that was, this was what guided the work for the rest of the sessions. It says, through a collaboration of partners across the cities of Monmouth Independence, we are developing an inclusive and welcoming community hub that provides a high quality services for health, wellness, and recreation to foster connections and enhance opportunities so that everyone has greater access to the resources they need to thrive. The current conditions that we evolved, we just spoke to, and when we looked at really that pyramid, we saw that it was estimated that currently only 25% of community services focuses on asset building based on this session. That's not perfect data, but it's a sense of the 50 partners who are involved in that. So I just wanted to make clear that. The next thing that came up was really the priority populations. And there were 6 populations who were considered underserved by current programs or current programs being at capacity or not enough options. And those populations came out to be families, teenagers, seniors, people with different abilities, multicultural, and farmers and farm workers were populations that the group felt could have a little more emphasis and being intentional about program design and delivery. As those needs were developed, the concept of what would be the design elements that would need to be prioritized, and they came out to 5 areas: education, which has early learning spaces, indoor recreation spaces, commercial kitchen, drop-in tutoring with staff with volunteers, indoor activities, workshop, multi-purpose rooms for hands-on projects, a gymnasium, indoor swimming pool, outdoor spaces for youth and teens, community gardens, dedicated space for book, bike, mobile. Community, a large event, performance space, possible large meeting spaces, private meeting space rooms, and making it kind of a welcoming first stop when people come in. And then finally, services, having a place for secure internet, 100% ADA accessible, easy transportation linkages were all key in that aspect. What had come about when we asked, well, if those are the needs and that's the population to be served, what's the model? How would you go about serving that? And it came down to kind of a community resource hub. In fact, in this document that once we finish it, we'll send it to you, that has a kind of schematic built in there. You have different spaces of a kind of what I call the old school community centers that were very popular back in neighborhoods where like everybody went there for everything. And it really is going to focus on that asset building and low-level prevention because there's already great partners and operations that are focusing on the intervention and high-level prevention. So the model that came up was a multi-purpose community center campus that connects partners, builds off current networks, and provides indoor and outdoor space for program expansion. There's a virtual option for 24-hour support, local community liaison supporting marketing and outreach for all partners by connecting community members to resources available and sharing what's available. A lot of times in communities, the resources are already there. It's really knowledge and awareness and connecting to them that becomes the challenge. So having a one-stop shop that's centrally located for Monmouth Independence would be helpful. And the final outcomes in all of this is two levels. There's the individual level outcomes, and then there's the community. The priority outcomes for the group was for individuals, reduce social isolation through strengthening networks, connection, and intergenerational activities, increase mental and physical wellness, build educational and workforce skills, easily access services and activities that are accessible to all. So that broad range of supports within easy reach was for individuals. Community outcomes would be bridge cultural gap, more synergy and diverse relationships, serve more individuals and families, strengthen partnerships, stronger families and workforce, increase community pride, caring, and volunteerism. So in the operating structure that would be explored was we're going to put together a task force of different partners to go forth and carry this intentional strategy sessions and input forward, looking for a backbone organization that if this arises, the community center, there would be a backbone organization that would kind of lead it, but have co-location of other partners within it. And then we would develop an advisory committee to help direct the backbone agency to make sure that it's staying with the intent of the original goal and focus and mission. And so that would be a very inclusive approach to staying relevant to the community needs on ongoing. And so in our next steps, we're definitely looking at the financial stability, viability, conducting a feasibility study, and seeing exactly what that would look like, and then starting to look at opportunities to fund that. We do have some locations we're looking at, but still those are in discussion for a central point. But I know both mayors were highly excited about the outcomes that would benefit both cities and seems like a positive next step. So thank you for allowing, I'm sorry I was long-winded. We're happy to take any questions.
So I guess I'm just looking what the community already has with the gate. You have the FCO, they're doing a lot of the outreach that you've described you're gonna be doing. And then also looking at financial funding because there's only so much private investment to make into that. Keep those all viable. So what's your plan moving forward and how are you gonna integrate with what's already there?
Yeah, all of those were, in fact, we were looking at the FCO as strengths, GATE as strengths, and many partners from all those organizations were there in developing this. So they were part of showing that this actually has a niche to complement in any community, having the resources in all of the social impact pyramid to meet the capacity is important now. So I feel good about the alignment based because the partners created it and they were a part of that who in those 3 strategy sessions. As far as the funding, yes, funding's always limited. I know there is great interest in these type of projects from many different, not just from the state, but from other like the CCOs and other organizations, cities, county, also foundations are very excited about the co-location, kind of the FCO model of bringing a lot of partners, resources, opportunities into one location. So there's probably right now, I think 6 or 7 projects across Marion and Polk County that have that sense of it and are actually getting funding from quite a few different resources. always a stretch, but what we found that if the model is right, and it's the communities behind it, that it'll rise up. Well, the question is to what level? And we haven't done a feasibility study. When we do that, we'll know better to answer that question.
I appreciate you both coming. I did invite you to share what you learned with these community sessions. And I think it's really exciting to have I don't know if the YMCA would be the backbone organization, but
Yeah.
more capacity for this sort of thing in Polk County. And I'm encouraged that you're seeing that the real gaps in the community are more in the asset building area. I did attend the first session. There's a little bit of concern that I had that we might be duplicating things that are already existing. And given the scarcity of resources, I would be really strategic, I think, about which partners are where, right?
Right.
And Polk County, obviously, FCO has done a lot of good work integrating those service providers through the service integration, then in the brick and mortar. So I really appreciate the close conversation with that department, obviously, as you're kind of looking at who ought to occupy these spaces. But I am encouraged by kind of where you are now. I feel a little less nervous about that, and not because I'm territorial. It's just in like I said, in a space of scarcity, we want to make sure we're strategic. So I think this is really exciting. I think more activities for families, that the target population seem right on. And that social connection for people with disabilities and seniors, I think it's a great opportunity. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And just want to mention too, I work fairly closely with service providers across sectors, both with my work on the Homeless Alliance and in other areas. And what I'm hearing from them is that it is kind of the rage now to fund these co-location spaces, but there's a finite number of humans that can be physically located at these spaces, right? So just something to keep in mind as you're looking for partners. If you see some reticence, it could be that, hey, we want to locate people here, but how are we strategizing this regionally so that the access for clients is optimized? And it's kind of one limiting factor in this. We've had similar situations. There was a veterans housing development and they wanted a full-time veteran service officer. And that's just, there's other ways we can kind of leverage technology and other ways to connect people if that is a hub from which we do kind of triage folks. So just keep us in the conversation.
Sure. And you bring up one good point that I didn't make, and this is not the answer to everything.
Yeah.
It's a hub and spoke model. It's where you can really have a lot of, for instance, in Salem, we're building the same model of FCO, but we have people who can't come to workshops because there's no childcare. And so we host the workshops and provide free childcare. And so this is an intergenerational, but you still need all the nonprofits where they're doing. And a lot of times you'll see they'll put like satellite offices there, or they'll just use space for satellite opportunities throughout the week. So the goal is still to have a broader range and nobody, change where they're at, keep them there, but be more connected, but have a center point in the community where you can really leverage and scale some of the resources and opportunities. So it has to be blended. And I totally agree with your approach.
Yeah.
It's the only way it's going to work.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So who owned the pool? Or who owns the pool?
The city does.
And what was the Wise relationship with the pool?
The city operated the pool.
The city operates it. So,
Sorry, the city owned it, the Y operated it.
and for how many years did that happen?
I honestly don't know.
Long time.
I mean, as long as I've.
What happened to that relationship?
What do
I
you mean?
mean, why not? I mean, the pool shut down, I get that, but what's the events that happened? Is it just that pool wasn't being maintained and it just deteriorated to a point where the Y just walked away from it? Is that what happened there?
No, I mean, ultimately the boiler died. And the city was responsible for maintenance of the facility. The Y was just essentially, staffing and running it. And yeah, ultimately the boiler died and it was going to cost several $100,000 to replace or fix it. And that was where, and it'd been band-aided for many, many, many years.
My recollection, Sean, is that the Y had a pretty good reputation with the pool and maintenance or operations of the pool for many, many years.
Mhm.
Yes? Is that fair?
I would say yes.
Right. And it was very popular, still is very popular. If I didn't hear anything else from the citizens of Independence and Monmouth, it would be, how come we can't have our pool back?
Mhm.
Here you're talking about trying to build something that is duplicative, I think, of what the county has already done in partnership with both the cities as a resource center and a hub. Plus we have Gate, who has spent a lot of community dollars, also supported by the cities. We have the school systems that are constantly trying to find a place where they can really matter for all of these issues. And then the churches and all their things that they're trying to do as well. So I'm worried about so much duplication that it dilutes what the rest of these organizations have been trying to accomplish. I think the cities of Monmouth and Independence have terrific resources and a lot of very community engaged organizations and people. Here's where the missing part is on your opening. And so, I mean, we know what FCO's team does in their surveys for youth, for example. We know what that looks like. We see those answers from kids. That pool is a big deal. And so if I was going to lean in on anything, I personally would be leaning in towards how can we help? I mean, this pool in Dallas is, hugely popular. It's very unpopular with the government, of course, but as far as recreation needs are concerned and activities, it's a big deal. And so, I mean, are you guys working towards an evolution there in all this, or is this just about, well, we want to build something else?
Yeah, in the results of the input, the pool's part of it in the schematic design. So the question is, pools are very, very expensive, A, to build and B, to run. We know we just opened up the new flagship and it's a brand new pool is very expensive to run. But we also know how important it is for all aspects of community. And that's why people have pools. It's so important. So a pool is definitely a factor. But I also want to address the duplication. This is very, we understand that FCO is doing a fantastic job and not knocking that. In fact, we're impressed in trying to utilize a lot of their best practices for the Statesman Journal building, which will have, I think, 35 partners in there that's being developed right now. And, the same concepts in the beginning came up with those concepts about duplication. But a couple of things I want to share just from all of the community partners. You can't have duplication until you have saturation. It's just like when I worked for Boys and Girls Club, people would say, is the YMCA your competitor? And I would say the Y could open up childcare 10 more and fill them if they could afford them. And so could the Boys and Girls Club. So you don't have duplication, even though we're doing the same thing, until you have saturation, meaning you're meeting the needs. This is more about alignment in staying in the asset building, which you saw in the pyramid on the sticky notes, that there's so much more that needs to be done in programming outside of what's already being done. So there was acknowledgement, and you can see that in the upper two, intervention and prevention, that there's great work doing. And a lot of that has to do with FCO and all the other partners already doing that. But where the gap was in that low-level prevention and that ongoing asset building for families, strengthening families with the protective factors and opportunities to thrive and come together as a community. So everyone felt, at least the 50 partners involved, is that's still a gap, that it wasn't duplication, at all. It was more about an opportunity to fill the capacity and the social gaps that we identified in the first four. But I understand that it can look like it, absolutely. And the model is, we didn't have a predetermined that it had to be a community center. There's many different ways you can do things. In fact, we presented 4 different models that you could look at. And in the end, each separate group came back to, this makes sense for the model too, which I was surprised. We provided many different aspects across communities of how you can go about filling these gaps of asset building and low-level prevention. But I appreciate exactly what you're saying. And the pool, no doubt, like pools are number one. And an indoor pool was specific to the input on this. So I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo what he said. The pool is definitely still very much in all of the conversation about this. And frankly, it's more of a question of as he said, they're expensive to build, expensive to maintain. So how can we create something that allows for a pool, but in a way that is sustainable in the long term? And I think, again, this was something we ran into, and we talked a lot about it. The third gathering of the partners was, we've been using a lot of the same language as FCO in terms of like resource navigator and, kind of even asset building, kind of has that same language. And we, in the final plan, we really tried to get away from that because it is down at the bottom level of the pyramid. We're talking sort of recreational programming. We're talking, yoga. We're talking, personal finance classes. We're talking sort of that like base, I have a solid living situation, but I need to feel better connection to my community, my people. I need to meet new people. I need sort of that, mental health, but not like I need counseling. It's, I need to be getting exercise and better nutrition and, kind of meeting other people, that I can hang out and talk with. So that's really the level that we were sort of targeting with this process, essentially to try to keep people from bumping up that pyramid to where they begin needing more of those prevention and intervention services that FCO and some of these other partners provide. But I think, Tim, I think also, kind of what he pointed out was, there's several things that can be supportive of, these other partners, even though they're going to continue doing their thing. If FCO has a program, an intervention program that's really important for somebody, if they can't find, drop in childcare or drop in care for their parent that they are the caregiver for, so that they can go to that meeting or that intervention, that's a problem. And so if we can, with this, type of a facility, provide those types of aligned services to support. And then also, if you're Joe Schmo walking in the door to go to the pool and you happen to talk to the person at the desk and say, oh yeah, I need help with my rent or my whatever, they can say, oh, hey, go talk to FCO because they can work with you guys on that. So it's a resource navigation, but more in that sort of large end of the funnel, I would say, of, a lot of people coming in for community center type things. And then this is another avenue for them or another on-ramp for them to get into, the pathways to services that they really need.
One other data point that might be helpful, when we rebuilt the flagship YMCA in downtown, in fact, people were questioning, should we even rebuild? Like, maybe there's a different model, it's downtown. And a lot of times it serviced many of the employees of the state buildings because it's, blocks away. And the projection for what we thought the involvement and engagement and the why in downtown, just that facility that we are at today, we thought would come 7 or 8 years from now. And in the first year, they hit, I think, 12,000. Now we're at 14,000 just for that facility that come in, and we have all the data points to show who's coming in and out each day. Never would have thought that something happened in COVID that changed how people want to get back in community. They want to get involved. They want to build networks and connections and feel valued. And if you talk about a mental health crisis, ask any professionals, it goes back down to a sense of belonging and connection to community and other people who can be supportive of you. And that's what this is part, and so it's not taking the place of anything. It's just adding the value and the continuum of what you want for your community to be successful.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. I appreciate you all.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Have a wonderful day.
If you wouldn't mind, hang tight till we're done, because I do want to talk to you offline.
Sure.
Okay, do we have any non-listed items?
No, sir.
No, sir.
I just correct the record based on the public comment period, real quick about our engagement.
Your meeting, you can say whatever you want.
All right. I just want to make clear to the public that while we do receive a spreadsheet from the sheriff's office that we can access at any time, these are patrol briefings. So when a call comes into the sheriff's office, that officer will provide a 1 or 2 paragraph briefing, and we do have access to that. We do not have access to active investigations. We do not influence, nor would it be appropriate to influence the DA's decisions to prosecute or not prosecute et cetera. So we're not involved in the investigations or the detective work or the prosecution. Just want to make that very clear.
That's not where I was going about. We talked about this.
We're not gonna do this, Andy, sorry. Not, we don't deliberate here. Okay, anything else? All right, we are adjourned. Now you can deliberate.